Good morning. Welcome to Thought for the Day on this beautiful Friday morning. I don't know if you've ever done that experiment. I think I first did it when I was a child, where you uh, have on, or, draw on a bit of paper two crosses, maybe 6 inches apart or something, and you close your left eye and you look at the left-hand cross, and then you move the bit of paper forward and back till it's about 3 times as far away from you as the distance between the crosses. And at that point, you suddenly realize, even though it's right there in front of you, you can't see the right hand cross. And that's because we all have, in each of our eyes, a blind spot. It's actually quite big. If you imagine looking up into the night sky and you see the moon, your blind spot is as big as 10 moons. That's how big. Right in front of your eyes, there's an area that big that you can't see. Amazing. It's to do, I think, with the way where the optic nerve comes in at the back of the eye, and where that is. When light comes to that point, then there's no space for receptors there to see it. It's you can read up the science about it, but it's quite shaking to think that right in front of my eyes there's a big area that I can't see. Um, And of course, it's not just actually that area in front of me that I can't see. I can't see what's beside me. I might, I get a glimpse if something moves dramatically outside here. I'd know it, but I wouldn't know in detail what's there unless I turn my head to look. And I wouldn't, and apart from the fact that I've got the camera pointing there at the moment, I would have no idea what's happening behind me. Can't see that at all. And of course, we get round it by looking around, by casting our eyes around different places. And our brains are remarkably good at remembering what we just saw over there. And so we get the impression we can see everywhere, but we can't actually. We get around it by turning our heads. And although I can't see out the window, I'm pretty confident that there isn't anyone digging up the drive outside because I looked around there a few moments ago, and I'm still convinced that the world hasn't changed. And of course, it's a big issue when we're out on the roads, when we're driving, riding a bike, even walking to some extent, but particularly when we're driving, uh, because we need to be able to see. We need to be able to see if that car's cutting in on us. We need to, or the car behind that's got impatient is trying to race past us. And we get around it the same ways, looking around, turning our heads, remembering, using the mirror, all sorts of ways we can do it. But I don't know about you, but I've noticed that as I get older, that becomes a bit harder. When I turn my head, it just takes a little bit longer for my eyes to focus on the new scene. I used to be able to cast a quick glimpse and I'd know what's going on there. Now I don't. I need to. Takes a little bit longer. We wear very focal glasses, don't we? That are amazing, but don't see clearly outside the designed area field of vision. Our necks and muscles are stiffer. It's not so easy to turn around and look over our shoulders. All sorts of ways it becomes gradually a little bit harder to know what's happening all around us. And of course, as we get older, we compensate for that. We become more experienced. We bring to bear our years of experience driving, a sense of where the danger spots lie. We become more cautious. We maybe don't drive quite so fast. We don't sometimes drive less at night or when visibility is difficult. And there's all sorts of ways we compensate. But sometimes even those ways we compensate aren't enough. Um, my With my dad, there came a time when I was actually a bit scared to be driven by him. It's not that he was a dangerous driver, that he was driving in dangerous ways, but sometimes he just wouldn't see things. But thankfully, that season for him didn't last very long because a few years ago he said that he'd been talking to my mum. They'd been talking to each other about driving, and they decided they needed to drive together. Not that one person holding each side of the steering wheel, one doing one pedal, and one person would be driving, but they would help each other by being eyes for each other, rather than snapping at each other. Rather than the driver snapping when the passenger pointed out something, they'd welcome it. When one person was looking one way, the other would look the other way. And it was remarkable. When I next driven by them, it was a very, very different experience. Not just in terms of the quality of the driving, but also the stress and the relationship. There's nothing worse than seeing things and being that the driver hasn't noticed, but being frightened to tell them, and they'd driven that away. The whole relationship between them was different. And the reason I'm saying this is because we all have blind spots, not just in what we see with our eyes, but what we notice about people. And Helen, my wife, is wonderfully good at noticing exactly what people said. I take the big picture, I take the impression I got. She'll say, "Well, did you notice that they actually said this?" And I need her perception in that area. What we see about situations. If once we've decided that that big new flat screen TV is the answer to enjoying our evenings together, then if I decide that, then I'm blind to the fact that actually putting that there is going to change the way we have our furniture. It's going to mean that we no longer sit facing each other. I'm not going to get a big flat screen TV. That's just an example. You see, and especially we're blind to things about ourselves. And because you see, and the most dangerous thing, it's often said, isn't it? The dangerous thing is not what you don't know. The most dangerous thing is what you don't know. You don't know. And my parents, I think, by what they discovered about driving, were an illustration of a truth I heard this week. Someone said to me that God creates blind spots deliberately. God creates blind spots deliberately so that we will learn to see through the eyes of others. God creates blind spots deliberately so that we will learn to see through the eyes of others. You see, I've been talking lots about the fact that we need each other. And I normally talk about it in terms of loneliness and our need for relationship, and that's absolutely true. But we need each other simply to see, to help us to see what we can't see. We need each other to tell us where our blind spots are. And that's not just to drive safely. It's not even just to navigate relationships well, but actually to be all God created us to be. Because I've got strengths and weaknesses. All people have weaknesses. God creates those weaknesses so that we can depend on others. God creates blind spots so that we can learn to see through others' eyes. And so we can, if we are wise, we will start to invite people to say, where are my blind spots? What are the things that I don't see? And we will become much safer navigators of life, navigators of the road, and learn to be all that God created us to be. May God bless you as you see, and maybe you see things that others help you see today.